Give me locations in the comments. Good morning, everybody. As y'all coming in, locations in the comments. Locations in the comments as y'all are coming in. Hope everybody's having a great start to your Tuesday. We're getting to the end of the month of October, which means all of you need to be writing down your goals for the month of November, set to start in 3 or 4 days. Get your goals on paper. Get your goals written down for the month of November. If you have not begun yet, start writing down your goals for the year of 2026. It is coming up on about 60 days before the new year begins. Goals for the month of November. Recheck your goals for the year of 2025 and your goals for the month of October. See what adjustments need to be made moving forward. Let's get our timer ready here. We got... Give me your locations in the comments as y'all are coming in. Today's topic, federal workers about to start missing paychecks. That's what we're going to talk about here today. Is the ongoing government shutdown continues. We're going to talk about federal workers possibly missing their paychecks as the shutdown continues. My prediction was that the shutdown will be over by Halloween. It's almost Halloween, so we're getting close to the deadline for my prediction to be proven accurate or not. As y'all are coming in, get your locations in the comments, folks. We got Rumble. We are live on Rumble. Good morning, live on YouTube. Good morning, live on X. Allegedly. Let me check. Yes, we are live on X. Good morning, live on LinkedIn. Good morning. My name on those 4 platforms is at Dre All Day. Rumble, YouTube, X, LinkedIn is at Dre All Day. Live on Facebook / Work on Your Game University. If you use Facebook, that's Work on Your Game University, my Facebook page. Live on Instagram at Dre Baldwin. Good morning over there on Instagram, and live on TikTok as usual at Work on Your Game. Good morning, TikTok. Give me locations in the comments. The topic here today: federal workers missing paychecks, SNAP benefits, maybe going away very soon as well. Well, not going away, but people may be losing them if this government shutdown is not solved soon. Carlina Brazil checking in from Bristol, Tennessee. Good morning over there on YouTube. Over on TikTok, let's see who we got over here on TikTok. 140.6 from Walnut Creek, California. Congrats. First comment. Giga Dad. First comment. Congrats. Carla, Indiana. Good morning. Dwayne Mitchell, Detroit is in the house. Carol Ann Collins, Newburgh, New York. Taylor Epperly, thank you for the share. L. Johnson, good morning. Union, New Jersey. Y'all getting wintertime already. Ken Jussick from Cleveland, Ohio. Shout out to Cleveland. Nikki from Connecticut. Leah, good morning. Ashley Mack, Fayetteville, Arkansas. Angela, Rocky Mount, North Carolina. Christine from Charlotte, Taylor from Tulsa. Shout out to Oklahoma. Marky Man from Sacramento. Shout out to Northern California. Sherry, good morning from Arizona. Nay, checking in from Baltimore. Laura, Iggy Lover from Oklahoma. So Oklahoma's represented strong here. Bravo Girl, Missouri. Noel from the California Bay Area. Shout out to the Bay Area. A little bit too windy for me out there. I'm kind of picky when it comes to weather. So the Bay Area is a nice area, but a little bit too windy. You look at California on TV, they make it seem like it's always sunny and warm, but that's not the case in my experience. But shout out to California either way. Billy Jean checking in from Indiana. Ty, thank you for the follow. Jolly Red Silver from Texas. For Baptiste, Port-au-Prince, Haiti. Good morning. KB from Palm Beach County. Shout out to Palm Beach. Shout out to Delray. Shout out to Boca Raton. Shout out to West Palm. For Baptiste, thanks for the share. Murphy the Muck, thanks for the share. Christine Wolf Cosi, Illinois. Rick Thomas, good morning. Karen, Texas. Ken Jessics, Beyond Belief, thanks for the share. Coco and Peppers from Miami. Shout out to Miami. LDG, Minnesota. KS Priest, checking in from GA. XTR from Northern California. Ramon Robinson, thanks for the follow. Meemaw from VA, good morning. Topic here today, folks. Government shutdown continues. People have been talking about this. The SNAP benefits might go away. SNAP benefits, by the way, is food stamps. And this continued government shutdown. So let's get into a few details here. So as far as actually, let me just give you the higher level details. So this federal government shutdown, we talked about this a few weeks ago. Government has been shut down all month. So it's been 4 straight weeks of this. It actually shut down officially on October 1st. Today is October 28th. So it's been exactly 4 weeks. This shutdown has been going on because Congress, the reason the shutdown happens is because Congress failed to pass a full year appropriations and a stopgap funding bill. In other words, Congress failed to come to an agreement on how money is going to be spent. So Congress, those are your state representatives and your senators. They'll have some of those from every state, 2 senators and different number of representatives depending on the number of people in your state. These are 535 roughly people who are representing us in Washington, D.C. They're the ones who pass the bills, or they're the ones who make the bills that become laws. So our laws are made by these people. They're the people who decide what happens with our tax dollars. So they're deciding what to do with the money, and they're getting paid a full-time salary to do so as a literal representative of you in Washington, D.C., representing you, your state, their district, whatever they're supposed to be doing. Now, are most of them actually doing that? I don't think so. I don't think most of them are doing that as their main priority. They're doing it, but I don't think many of them are doing it as their main priority, but they're doing something and they're getting paid to do it in the process of doing so. They were unable to pass this bill. So the government completely shuts down. So none of them are technically working right now. And what happens is, as the government continues to be shut down, it gets to the point that federal workers are no longer getting their paychecks, because if the government is not running, then technically there's no money. There's no money allocated. The money is there, but the money does not get allocated. So right now, what's going to happen is about 750,000 people. These are all people working for the federal government. Federal government is that large. 750,000 people are furloughed. Basically means you're not working right now, but you'll come back. And about 1 million, additionally, 1 million federal workers are required to work, but they're not getting paid. Did y'all hear that? 1 million people who work for the federal government have to come to work and do their jobs, but they don't get a paycheck. Now, they're going to get paid. They get paid on the back end. They get back pay for the money that they didn't get before. So I guess it'll feel good when they get extra money than what they're used to getting in the check, but that's money that they were never getting. So they're required to work without pay. And the routines of everything from air traffic control to passport processing, all this stuff got destabilized. Now, as far as the passport processing, I can tell you from personal experience, I just renewed my passport. I got my first passport in 2005. That was right before I went to overseas to play ball for the first time. I renewed it in 2015. And then I had to renew it again. So I'm renewing it again now. And they said the picture wasn't good. Then I went and got a picture taken and I sent it in to them. And they sent me an email last night that said we received I had to send them a letter, like literally had to print out the letter and put it in the snail mail mailbox. And I got a letter yesterday that said, we received your response and we're going to process it now. We'll update you in 2 weeks. Then I got another email this morning at like 4:30 in the morning that says, we have processed your passport and it's on its way. So clearly somebody's working, because my passport is on its way. And it said 2 weeks, but it literally took like less than 24 hours. But they're sending me my new passport. Neither here nor there. Now, officials at the Office of management and budget. This is the OMB. These are the people who actually make these decisions about what happens with the money. This is the OMB. So you want to be mad at somebody. Don't be mad at Donald Trump or the Republicans or the Democrats. You need to be mad at the OMB. These are the folks. Officials, Office of Management and Budget. They have signaled that furloughed workers are not guaranteed back pay. This is important context. They are not guaranteed back pay unless Congress explicitly includes it in the next continuing resolution. That's also known as the CR. You may often hear media talking about the CR. CR is basically a way of saying, okay, we can't come to a full agreement, but we'll do this temporary agreement. That's basically what a CR is. Unless Congress explicitly includes back pay for furloughed workers in their next agreement, those furloughed workers do not get back pay. They just miss the money. Tough break. That's basically what it comes down to. And that's a sharp break from expectations that was built under the GEFTA. The government has all these acronyms. The GEFTA is the Government Employee Fair Treatment Act that came into play in 2019 under what president was that? All right, so under the GEFTA in 2019, they created an act that's all about the fair treatment of employees who work for the government. I didn't know they needed an act to make sure employees got treated fairly, but they needed an act for it. In 2019, Congress created this act, and this is an expectation that was built into it that a furloughed worker would receive back pay if they were not working during a government shutdown. So let's make sure we have proper context here. I'm going to pull something up real quick. Where is it? Just to make sure we're on the same page. So a furlough is a termination of employment or workforce, often temporarily. So basically temporary, no work. So the government workers, that's what furlough means. Furlough means you are temporarily terminated, often temporarily terminated, to where there's no work right now because of the government shutdown. And the GEFTA, Government Employee Fair Treatment Act, set an expectation that if you were furloughed and then you came back to work, that we would pay you back pay for the time that you weren't paid. Now, what is being said here is that unless Congress, these are your representatives and senators, unless they explicitly agree to this in the next agreement that they do come to, i.e. when they end the shutdown, the people who didn't get paid are just not getting paid. That's what's going to happen. They're just not getting paid. And at the same time, Social Security Administration, all y'all know them, they delayed the October announcement of the annual COLA. Here's another acronym for you, COLA. This is not Coca-Cola, COLA. This stands for Cost of Living Adjustment. Cost of living adjustment for roughly 70 million beneficiaries until October 24th, because the key inflation data from here's another acronym, the BLS. The BLS is the Bureau of Labor Statistics, has not been produced amidst the shutdown, leaving retirees and disabled individuals in financial limbo. Okay, so as y'all can see, there's a lot of shit going on here. All right, so let's back up here. And let's make sure we put this in proper context. We want to make sure everybody understands what we're talking about here. So, several things here. The Office of Management and Budget says the furloughed workers are not guaranteed back pay. Okay, we're clear on that. There's an agreement called the GEFTA, Fair Treatment Act, not an agreement, but an act. I'm assuming that this is a law now. It looks like it is. And that was signed, looks like it was signed by Donald Trump 2019. That government employees get treated fairly, i.e. get paid back for time that you worked or furloughed time when the government was shut down. Because it's not like it's their fault that they weren't working. It's the government's fault. They weren't working, but they worked for the government. So technically it's kind of their fault, but it's kind of not. And Social Security, so that what they do is they do a cost of living adjustment called the COLA. Now, I don't know that much about Social Security. I'm not a Social Security recipient. Maybe some of you who are listening are, and you can tell me if I have this right. But here's the assumption I'm going to make just based on context clues. That the cost of living adjustment for Social Security means that the Social Security office will say, okay, you're on Social Security benefits, you get this much money, but now that your cost of living has changed, often people's cost of living goes up, not down. So since your cost of living has gone up most of the time, we're going to give you more benefits, i.e. we're going to give you more money for your Social Security than what we were giving you last year. We're going to give you more money this year. But because this, and again, this is just my theory, and any of you who's on Social Security and know somebody who is, please co-sign this, that because of the government shutdown, the 70 million people who are receiving Social Security, they can't get that adjustment. So let's say you were getting $800 a month, but now you need $1,000. You got to live off the 800. even though your costs have gone up, you can't get the 1,000 yet because the government is shut down. So we can't make the adjustment because the BLS, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, has not produced the information that proves to us that your cost of living has gone up. Therefore, even though it has and you need the money, we can't give it to you because the government is shut down. So basically, you're screwed out of the money that you could be getting from the government. I'm not even going to say that you're owed by the government, but let's just say that you would be getting as a Social Security recipient. You're screwed because the government is shut down. So this is screwing over a whole lot of people. Long story short, 750,000 people. That's 750,000 people who are furloughed, i.e. temporarily unemployed. I don't know if they get unemployment during this time. I'm not sure how that works. 750,000 there. 1 million people got to go to work every day without pay. And some of you may be wondering, I wondered when I first saw this, well, how are you going to make me come to work if you're not paying me? Well, I would guess that if you don't go to work without pay, then you're basically fired. And then when the pay comes back in, you can't get any because you don't work here anymore. So you got to work without pay until we decide we're going to start paying you again. That reminds me of some situations playing basketball overseas. When the team doesn't pay you, you haven't got your paycheck. They're like a month behind on paying you, but you still got to play in the games and you still got to go to practice every day. Again, different conversation for a different day. This is all happening amidst the shutdown, leaving retirees and disabled individuals in financial limbo. And these are the things that happen during the shutdowns while you have the Democrats and Republicans. Thank you for that, Ghost. I haven't seen that one before, whoever gave me that one. So the Democrats and Republicans, while they are wifey tips, that was the face pulling. Was that yours? And they're arguing over, well, are we trying to get benefits for, because they both are saying the same thing, that the crux of this is about health care for documented versus undocumented people. So the Republicans are saying that the Democrats are trying to sneak in some ways that they can give health care to people who do not have proper documentation, i.e. people who are not American citizens. The Democrats are saying we are just trying to give health care to everybody. So they're talking around the point, but the whole argument here for the shutdown, for those of you wondering, why is this shutdown continuing? Why is it taking 4 weeks? It's not because they can't approve a budget. That's not really the issue, because all Congress does, when we're talking about budget, long story short, they're deciding what to do with other people's money. All right, they're playing with OPM. So there's another acronym for you here today. Congress is deciding what to do with your money. Now, that's not their money. That's not your representative's money. That's not your senator's money. They get to decide what to do with your money. So any of you want to know why people go and work in the government and why they get jobs working in Congress and why they never leave and why they stay there for 50 years like Bernie Sanders and Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and all these other folks? Know why they do this? Because they get to make decisions with other people's money. What better job could you have than that? You get to make decisions. You have power. You get to make laws and pass bills. You get cameras in your face. A lot of people are listening to what you say. And every decision you make is based on somebody else's money. And if you're wrong, then you don't lose any money. You still get your paycheck. You still get to buy stocks, Nancy Pelosi. You still get your two-week bi-weekly paycheck. All right, you're still good. Even if you make a mistake, are you held accountable for your mistake? Not really. I mean, it sounds like a pretty good job, you ask me. Now, I don't want that job, but it sounds like a pretty good job. I understand the people who run for it. I understand why they try to get it, even those who didn't get in. Royce White, for example, I think he's trying to get into the House of Representatives. And the people who are in there, I understand. All your decisions are about other people's money. So this is what Congress gets to do. Now, a lot of people have been talking about the SNAP benefits because not everybody works for the federal government, but a lot of people receive SNAP benefits. SNAP is another acronym, SNAP, and I don't even know what SNAP stands for. Let's see if we can find out. So SNAP is food stamps. And these benefits are possibly going to go away. Let's see the date, November 1st, Saturday. So as of Saturday, the USDA, there's another acronym. All right, so the government is good with coming up with acronyms. One thing the government is very efficient at is acronyms. USDA is the United States, I believe that's the Drug Administration. They've confirmed that all SNAP benefits will cease nationwide on November 1st due to, and SNAP stands for Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. Okay, so some of you know it. So Mike Honcho, thank you for telling us. So Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. I don't think they should call it this. I don't think SNAP should be called Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program because this is not, things I see people buying with SNAP benefits is not nutritional. And often is people buying stuff in places where there's not a lot of quality food. You don't see people buying with SNAP at Whole Foods. But anyway, again, different conversation for a different day. Let's not go down that hole. SNAP benefits will cease on November 1st. That is this Saturday, due to exhausted federal funding. Exhausted federal funding. That's a interesting language. Exhausted federal funding. How's the federal funding get exhausted? It's being funded by us. Last time I checked, I don't know about y'all. The last time I checked, when I go to the store and buy something, there's tax. So how is the federal funding exhausted? Last time I checked, every year you got to pay taxes. So how is the federal funding exhausted? If this is tricky language, federal funding is not exhausted. Federal funding has just been, the use of it has been paused by people who are making decisions with your money. So states, what that means is states will no longer be able to issue new benefits, i.e. you can't sign up for food stamps, and they cannot reload your EBT card, i.e. if you have an EBT card that every month you get $500, you ain't getting nothing on November 1st. You get no money without that new appropriations bill. So unless Congress figures this out, that bill doesn't come. All of this is factored into my prediction from the very beginning that the shutdown will be over by Halloween. Halloween being October 31st. Most of you know that. Because if they don't, then a whole lot of shit is about to hit the fan. So some states may use limited emergency reserves for a few days, not months, not weeks, days. So that means some states you might be able to eat for a couple of days, then you're going to starve if all your money comes from SNAP benefits. And this is not even guaranteed. Now, again, federal workers, we already talked about some federal workers. So essential federal workers are working without pay. So TSA, any of you who has been flying, any of you been on an airplane or been fly commercial in the last, this month? Anybody here flew commercial this month? Put me in the comments if you have flown commercial in the month of October 2025. If you have, you may have noticed that TSA was a little bit more rude than usual. And the reason why they were more rude than usual because they haven't been collecting. They ain't getting paid. They've been getting paid all month. So any of you already don't like TSA. All right, they gave you extra reason to not like them this month. But this month, y'all should give TSA grace. Okay, until the government shutdown ends, understand that the rude jerks that work at TSA, all right, they got a reason to be a jerk now. They were just jerks to be jerks before, but they got a reason to be jerks this month because they're not getting paid. All right, TSA is not getting paid. So Abby said TSA was definitely miserable in Newark. Yeah, they're not getting the check. They got to come to work to keep their job, but at the same time, they're not getting paid for doing their job. That's a kind of a catch-22. So all TSA is working for free right now. They're not really working for free. I'm kind of being funny here. Air traffic controllers are working for free. So any of you who's in a plane and your plane crashes by accident, all right, that's because air traffic controllers are mad because they're not getting their checks. All right, that's another joke. And active duty military, all right, they're not getting paid either. Okay, so none of these people are getting paid. So when Donald Trump's sending people in the cities, they ain't getting no paycheck, but they still got to go in the city. So they might be a little bit rougher on the American citizens who they're arresting by accident. Again, jokes. Now, they're all working without pay. They're going to miss their bi-weekly paycheck on October 31st. So these people usually get paid on Friday, this Friday, Halloween. So if y'all think it's just little kids walking around in ghost costumes that are scary on Halloween, all right, now you're going to be dealing with scary adults because they ain't getting their checks. So a bunch of adults not about to not get their checks on Friday, okay, who work for the federal government. If this shutdown continues again, my prediction from the very beginning, I didn't even know all these details when I first heard it, but I knew they weren't going to let this keep going because I know it ultimately downstream. There's a lot of effects. Now, the furloughed workers, as I just said, they stopped receiving pay immediately when the shutdown started, and they've already missed the paycheck. So all the furloughed workers, they would have got paid on the 17th, two Fridays from this Friday ago. They already didn't get paid. They're about to not get paid again. So they're about to go a whole month without getting paid. Now, Congress, again, historically, they pay people back, but there's no legal guarantee until that bill gets signed. Now, do I think they're going to get paid back? I do. But is it guaranteed? No, it's not. So if being that I'm just talking about it, I don't work for the federal government. It's easy for me to say this, but if I work for the federal government, that's my full-time job. And that's my main source of income. And I know that legally it's not guaranteed that I'm going to get my money. I already missed the check and I'm about to miss another check, and Halloween's coming up and the holiday season's coming up. Again, adding all this together, first of all, if I work for the federal government, I'm kind of nervous right now and anxious about, all right, when the hell am I going to get paid again? Number one. And at the same time, this is the reason why from the outside looking in on this situation, I believe this will be over by Halloween because they can't let this go into the holiday season. You can't let this go to Thanksgiving. You can't let this go to Christmas, that people can't not have a Thanksgiving. They can't have a holiday season because you all want to argue about healthcare benefits. And I'm going to tell you who I'm going to put this on in a second. The short answer is the Democrats, and I'll explain to you why in a moment. Let me introduce myself first. For those who don't know me, my name is Dre Baldwin. Many know me as Dre all day. I'm a former 9-year pro athlete, author of a few books, done a few TED Talks. I run this company called Work on Your Game Incorporated. Our focus over here is what we call the Power Presence Protocol. That is all about you commanding attention, shifting energy, and leaving an impression on people without saying a single word. And when you do say something, and you do actually do something, all it does is multiply the impression that you already made before you spoke. You want to learn more about that? Go to the link in my profile. It's powerpresenceprotocol.com. We have a challenge coming up on the 10th. We have a mastermind that is open right now that you can get into. And if you can get into the mastermind, we send an email out about that this morning. Just go to the link in my profile or send a text with the word power, 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 to the number in my profile. My text number is in there. The number is 305-384-6894. You want to get into the Power Presence Protocol, just send me a text or click the link in my profile. You learn everything you need to know about the protocol. All that stuff was put together. We got it ready. So many essential workers are showing up without pay, as we already talked about. At least 60,000 air safety staff. This is your TSA, the grumpy TSA workers who, TSA, by the way, when you go through TSA, I don't have to anymore because I have had Clear for a few years. Any of you who flies 3 times a year or more, I would suggest you invest in a Clear membership. This is not a paid sponsorship. They don't pay me. They're not a sponsor. But Clear is worth it to where you can skip the TSA line. You jump straight up to the front and the person who looks at the IDs, they let you through, and then you go right through. You do have to actually go through the TSA security thing. But if you have Clear and TSA, what do they call that stuff? What's that thing called? The thing you pay $85 a year for 5 years. I'm forgetting the name of it. What's it called? TSA, whatever that's called. That thing. TSA clearance, whatever. I forget the name of it. One of you know what I'm talking about. What's it called? Pre-check. Yes, TSA pre-check. That's what it is. Thank you. TSA pre-check. So if you got TSA pre-check and Clear, you get a pretty smooth process getting through the security lines at the airport. Even better, you could just fly private or buy a plane. I'm not there yet. A couple dollars, but I got to save a couple more dollars. But those of you who fly commercial, I would suggest Clear, if you fly at least 3 times a year, is worth it. I think a Clear membership is like $250, something like that. And if you fly for business at least one of those times, talk to your accountant. This is not legal advice. You can write that off as a tax. You can write that off on your taxes as a business expense. Again, not financial advice. So anyway, your grumpy TSA officers, I mentioned them because going through TSA when you don't have any of that stuff feels like you checking into jail. They sound like corrections officers out of jail, TSA people. And again, now multiply that by the fact they ain't getting paid, but they still got to come to work. It's really jail. All right, it's Alcatraz. And air traffic controllers, they're still working, don't get paychecks. And again, they had to be there for national safety, and they got to manage their own personal financial crisis. I mean, they got to send their kids to school. They got to pay for groceries. They got to pay rent. And we know the average American is one paycheck to the next paycheck. So it's not like these people got a year of savings to hold them over just in case the government shuts down. So this is a serious situation that the government needs to fix. Now, the OMB memo, this is the budget folks. They claim that back pay for furloughed workers isn't automatic, even under GEFTA. A lot of federal workers are stunned by that. As I said this a minute ago, that the GEFTA was created to make sure that federal employees are treated fairly, i.e., give them their damn money for the time that y'all were shut down. They didn't get paid even though they were working and they had a job. They were doing what they were supposed to do. You all couldn't get your job done, Congress. And now I got to suffer from that. The Government Employee Fair Treatment Act, a.k.a. GEFTA, was created to make sure there were no shenanigans or something like this happen. But the OMB sent a memo out and said that the GEFTA does not guarantee that you get your back pay. So if I'm a federal worker, I'm like, I don't know if I can go to sleep. If I'm a federal worker and I'm paycheck to paycheck and I'm the main income earner in my family and I don't have any other options to bring in money and the government continues to be shut down, I can't get paid. And now I don't even know if I'm going to get the money that I thought the government owed me. Okay, how you going to go to sleep? I very much understand this. And there are probably some congressional members saying things like this because it's bigger than this Democrat and Republican argument. And the reason why I say we put this on the Democrats is because the Republicans have the power in Congress right now. They got the power in the White House as well. And the Democrats are trying to sneak in, giving health care benefits to undocumented people who are here in the United States of America. That's what's happening. All right, that's the essential argument that this comes down to. The main crux of why they can't agree on everything is because of this piece right here. It doesn't really have that much to do with money. It does, but it doesn't. And the Democrats are trying to go hard for this one because getting health care for those people is going to be another feather in their cap when they try to get these undocumented people to become documented and to become citizens. And when they become citizens, well, what are they going to do? Now they have suffrage, which is the right to vote, and the right to vote, and who they're going to vote for? The Democrats. So I understand why the Democrats are fighting tooth and nail for this, but I also understand they're going to lose, and also understand why the shutdown continues over this, because this is a bigger picture issue for both sides. For the Republicans, it's a bigger picture issue because Donald Trump has made it clear that immigration is one of the main things he's been about. Fixing the economy, immigration. Those are the two main things Donald Trump's run on for 10 years. And the Democrats' main thing that they've been running on for 10 years is whatever Donald Trump says, we're going to do the opposite. So Donald Trump says fixing the economy. Well, they don't want to break the economy, so they can't do that. That would go too ridiculous, too extreme. But immigration, they can do that. They can do the opposite of that. So if Donald Trump doesn't want a bunch of people coming into the country without proper documentation, Democrats want a bunch of people coming in without proper documentation. We want to make sure they get health care. So it looks like we, the Democrats, are doing everything good for them so that then if and when they become citizens, that's that fast track to citizenship that Kamala Harris kept mentioning in 2024 to her detriment. Now they'll come vote for the Democrats. And this is a long-term play for them. This is not about the Democrats currently in D.C. This is about 20 years later Democrats in D.C. That's what this is. This is a long-term strategy play that the Democrats have in place. And the Republicans are working hard to stop it. And I would say, as an American citizen who has proper documentation, that no matter how you feel politically about any certain person, how could you possibly be on the side of the Democrats in terms of this subject? How? I want somebody in the comments to tell me how. But not saying anything negative about the Republicans. How could you possibly be on the side of the Democrats in this conversation? If you're an American citizen with proper documentation, why would you want healthcare benefits to go to people who are here without proper documentation and not citizens? Why would you want that? Why would you want your money to be paying for those people's healthcare if they're here without proper documentation? That means you're kind of like a visitor. You're on vacation. You don't get healthcare. You don't get healthcare for free just because you're here. You got to go. You want healthcare, go back to where you're from, and you get healthcare where you live, where you pay taxes. But how can somebody be on the side of that? I just don't understand this. So anyway, let's continue. And when we get to the comments, I'll let you all have your say in that. So unions say that this represents betrayal. I think so. And this law, again, signed in 2019 under President Trump, was meant to guarantee compensation after shutdowns. So why did OMB even put this message out there? I don't know. I guess they're, trying to get people nervous. I don't know why they put this out there. But it's not, I don't think it's helping. Now, the COLA delay, this means that retirees and disabled Americans can't plan their budgets or know their benefit increases, i.e. if you're getting $500 a month from Social Security, but you're trying to get $750 a month from Social Security because your rent went up, you don't know if you're going to get it. And you don't know when you're going to get it. So this is, you walk into Walmart and there's somebody who looks like they should be retired saying, hey, welcome to Walmart. This is how stuff like that happens. So the SSA usually reveals the raise in mid-October. So the raise usually gets mentioned every October, but they didn't reveal anything this year because they're shut down. They're not working. So many people won't find out until later. I don't know if they announced it later, but we'll see. Now, service disruptions loom. So when there's no employee pay, public services get hit. So any of you who takes your kids to a public park, I take my kids to public parks, federal offices, like we mentioned, passport agencies, things like that, processing of visas. And if you have friends and family who are traveling from outside the United States, want to get visas, all of this stuff can eventually get delayed. Right now, it's still going pretty smooth. Right now, it's still smooth. But what's about to happen if this shutdown continues, especially into November and or December, is I think there's going to be bedlam. I think this will be really bad for a lot of Americans. It's going to make the government already looks bad. I would say it would make the government look bad. The government already looks bad. I think it's going to get people who still don't pay attention to this stuff to really start paying attention. The people who don't really have the luxury to talk about this stuff on a conversational level, like most of us who are in here, most of you who are listening to this, you have the luxury of talking about this on a conversational level. We're just talking about it. Now, people who actually work there, and you really need that check, and you really need it to take care of your kids and to pay your bills, and you really need to put food on your table, and you really need it for Thanksgiving and Christmas. See, those people don't have the luxury of talking about this and having a discussion on it on a Democrat Republican level. This is a food, clothing, shelter level. And this is going to get those people paying attention to the government in ways that they otherwise were not paying attention. So the Donald Trump engagement in politics got a lot of Americans paying attention to politics who otherwise weren't paying attention. People such as myself. And that was 10 years ago. Now, a lot of people are talking about it and having discussions about it like we're doing here. But there's still a whole lot of people in America who still don't pay that much attention because they're, again, every day, they're food, clothing, shelter. You get what I'm saying? These people are food, clothing, shelter every day, bi-weekly check to bi-weekly check. And if they work for the federal government, that's the closest thing you can get to a guaranteed paycheck is working for the federal government. That's the closest you can get. Corporate America is somewhat close after that, and anything after that is a distant third place. Government, federal government guarantee is the closest you can get to a guaranteed paycheck. There's no such thing as a guaranteed paycheck, as we can see, because they're not getting their checks, but it's the closest you can get. Next closest is a stable corporation that's been around for a long time. But again, we saw in 2008, that can fall apart. And anything else is way, way, way down there at number 3. Other than that, ain't no guaranteed paychecks. Actually, there's really no such thing as a guaranteed paycheck. But these service disruptions, these workers, 1 million federal workers right now are working without a paycheck. And half of them are working in essential roles, meaning they need to keep coming to work. And they're not getting paid. And again, they got kids. All right, they have husbands and wives. They have bills. They got electric bills. They got food that they have to pay for. They have Halloween coming up. They got birthdays. They got all this stuff. And this is making the government as a whole look bad. We're going to get to them in a minute. Now, local economies suffer as well. So if 1.4 million paychecks are not going out, well, guess what? That means 1.4 million people don't have money in their pockets. And when people don't have money in their pockets, guess what they can't do? They can't buy shit. And when people can't buy shit, you know what happens? The economy suffers. For those of you, all of you are familiar with the word economy. You just need to understand what the economy is. It's a very simple concept. The economy simply means money is moving. That's all it means. The economy is the movement of money. So every one of you has a personal economy. It's the movement of your money. Money coming in, money going out. That is your economy. The more the money is moving, the healthier the economy. That's what we call a healthy economy. A thriving economy is when money is moving. That doesn't mean that more people necessarily have money, but people feel like they have money. The economy is really psychological more than it is tangible. When people are positive about their current money situation and they're optimistic about the future of their money, that means every dollar that comes in, they believe they'll make more money in the future. They are happy and they're willing and able and happy to spend money right now. If I believe I'll make a bunch of money tomorrow, I don't have a problem spending money today. That's a thriving economy. If most Americans feel like that, then there's a thriving economy. Everybody's spending money. You spend money at the bread store, the bread store worker, they take that money and they go buy equipment and hire workers. The people who they hired as workers, they take their money, they go to the movies on the weekend. The people at the movie theater, they take that money and they go finance more movies. The people who got financed for the movies, they take their money and they go and buy whatever you sell at your shop. You take your money and you go buy more bread from the shop. And the economy keeps thriving. All right, that's the economy. Money just keeps circulating. That's a healthy economy. That was the 90s under Bill Clinton. We had a very thriving economy. Everybody was positive about money and everybody just spent money, made money, and everybody was happy. When people get pessimistic about their money situation, pessimistic about how much they have, and pessimistic about the future of their money earning prospects, that's when it's not that the money disappears. Money doesn't disappear out of the economy. What happens is people just hold on to their money more tightly, i.e. they don't spend it. Okay, I have money, but instead of going to the store and buying bread, I'm just going to hold it and I'm going to put it under my mattress, or I'm going to put it in my bank account, and I'm not going to spend it because I'm not sure I'm going to make any money tomorrow. So I better hold on to the money that I have because I'm not sure I'm going to be able to replenish this money. And when people don't want to spend money, well, what happens? Well, the shop owner is not making many sales. If the shop owner is not making sales, what do? Maybe they start cutting prices. So even when they do make sales, they're not making as much profit. And if they're not making profit and they have to cut their prices, what do? Well, they look at their employees and say, well, I have 3 employees right now, but if business is this slow, I don't need 3 employees. Let me fire 2 of them. Now I only got 1 employee. So now there's only 1 employee who's asked to do the work of 3 people, but there's only 1 person. Even though they're still getting paid, they got to do 3 times the work. Now there are 2 people who used to have a job. Now they don't have a job. They don't have a job. They don't have any money. Well, guess what they can't do? They can't go to the grocery store. They can't go to the movies. They can't they can't go on vacation. They can't go and buy some extra food at the food court. They're not spending any money. So there's less money going around in circulation. All the shops are making less money because fewer people have money, and everybody starts cutting back. And what happens is this negativity, this pessimism, this negative paranoia around money starts to spread from person to person. I explained to you, money is psychological. Money is really tangible. It's more of a psychological thing, how people feel about money. And when everybody starts to feel negatively about money, because energy is contagious, we get what you call a depression or a recession. Those of you who remember 2006, 7, 8, 9, that was what happened when people got negative about money. People were positive about money in the late 90s. People were negative about money in that 06 to 08 range. Negativity around money. And I'm bringing all that up to say that when people are not sure what's going to happen with the money, it trickles down. Y'all want to talk about trickle down economics. Trickle down economics is not about put a bunch of money at the top that's going to make its way to the bottom. That doesn't work. But there is a trickle down effect of psychology. Psychology does trickle down, and it trickles down very quickly, faster than actual dollars do. So the trickle down effect of the psychology around money, if this goes past Halloween, because all this will be null and void. Everything that I'm saying is not really, because people are still missing paychecks. But the future prospects of this will be null and void if they come to an agreement before Friday, which I still predict they will. Today's Tuesday. I think they'll come to an agreement before the end of business on Friday. Why is this? Because the people who work in Congress are human beings, just like you and I. And when people face a deadline, they tend to get more serious and do what they could have did 3 weeks ago. They do it at the deadline. That's just how it works. Any of you who's in sales, you're an entrepreneur, you put something on sale and you say this is on sale for 10 days. You'll make a whole bunch of sales at the beginning, the early adopters, the people who move quickly. Then it's going to be really quiet in the middle of those 10 days. Then in the last 24 hours, and you start sending everybody the message, hey, it's about to close. The cart's about to close. You got 24 hours. You got 2 hours, 1 hour left to make the purchase. All of a sudden, everybody comes in and buys at the last minute. Why? Because human nature. Human beings are masters at procrastination. Now, we wait to the last minute to do things. Why? Because that's what human beings do. And the people in Congress are human beings. They're going to wait to the last minute. They're going to get this done by Friday. Again, that's my prediction. If I'm wrong, I will come on here on Monday and I'll admit that I was wrong next Monday. But I think they're going to get this done by Friday. Why? Because they're humans. So anyway, if this goes on, if this goes past Friday and I end up being wrong, then the negative psychology around the money is going to start to find its way to everybody's pockets. Why? Because there will be less money circulating. Businesses will have less money. They'll be making less. Therefore, they're going to spend less. People are going to get fired. People are going to get their hours cut. There's going to be less money being made. The people who own businesses understand that they spend money too. All right, they're everyday people too. They have homes. They have kids. They have families. They have weekends too. They go on vacations. They go to the movies. They go to the grocery store. They're going to spend less money. They're spending less money. Those businesses have less. Their owners have less. Everybody feels that there's less money being thrown around. Why? Because Congress is holding this big block of money that is not being dispersed because the Congress people are not working, so the money can't circulate. So Congress is holding all this money hostage right now while they're on shutdown. And if that money's not moving, guess what? The money ain't moving. And when the money ain't moving, there's less money going around. And when there's less money going around, negative psychology starts to set in. It's the same way as a human being. This is the scientific law of inertia. Object in motion tends to stay in motion. Object not in motion tends to stay not in motion until unless acted upon by an outside force. So when the money is not moving, same way that if you sit on your couch and you watch Amazon or Netflix or whatever y'all watch these days, and you're not moving, lethargy sets in. Lethargy is just the feeling of not having no energy. You feel listless. You feel like you have no energy because you're sitting there doing nothing. You feel like continuing to sit there and do nothing. But when you get up and start moving, you feel like you should just keep moving because you're already moving. That's momentum. So if the money is just sitting around doing nothing, then the money gets lethargic. Okay, I'm not moving. I might as well just keep not moving. This is how you get recessions. This is how you get depressions. And by the way, speaking of such, our president, I highly doubt he wants this on his track record. So there's another reason why I am confident that by Friday, if Donald Trump needs to start speaking up about this a little bit more, I think he will. And he'll make phone calls to whoever he needs to make phone calls to. And he'll make sure that he gets Congress, get your ass back in those chambers and get this deal done. Because I'm not going to have a recession on my track record. Because the midterm elections are a year away. Now, let's not forget. for the Democrats and the Republicans. This becomes a framing argument, but let's not forget. All right, this looks bad for all of them, and all of them, any of them who's up for election, re-election, could be replaced by somebody else just because you represented the group that let the shutdown happen and made me not get paid. All right. Again, it doesn't matter. It could be a Democrat replacing a Democrat, a Republican replacing a Republican, but you were in Congress when that shutdown happened. I didn't get my check for a month. Okay, let's get you out of there. All right, that can happen. So let's keep all of these things got to be kept in mind moving forward. Again, hopefully none of this happens. If I'm right, none of this will happen because this will be over by Friday, but I could be wrong. So Bipartisan Policy Center, here's another BPC. They say nearly 1.8 million civilian paychecks could be withheld if this drags into November, which we already established. Now, political brinksmanship is now everyday life for these workers, as I just explained to you. Those who know what brinksmanship is when two people are basically in a stare down. It's like one of those old Western movies where the two guys with the guns on their hips, they take 10 paces away and they turn and they're just staring at each other. Who's going to pull out their gun first and shoot the other person? That's brinksmanship. It's like both people acting like I'm willing to go as far as possible. And it's just a staring contest to see who blinks first. That's what political brinksmanship is. Who's going to blink first, the Democrats or the Republicans? Now, federal employees say they're being used as pawns in these negotiations because they got to pay rent, they got to pay grocery bills, and they're being used as pawns in these arguments between the Democrats and the Republicans. And that's exactly what's happening. They're 100% correct. And this is what Congress does. And this is the reason why people don't trust the federal government, even though they may not be able to explain this out in words the way that I'm doing it right now. But this is what they do. People get into Congress because they have power. You want to know why people get into working in the federal government? It's because of the power. It's not the paycheck. And it's not the paycheck. It is not the insider trading and the stocks that you can buy. It's not being on the internet, or it wasn't the internet back then. It's not being on CNN and on TV. It's not having the staff and people who you can boss around and tell them what to do. It's not that you get to have a second residence in DC and then another one in the place that you're allegedly representing in your home state. See, all of those things are byproducts of the power. All those things come to you when you have power. It's the reason why my program is called the Power Presence Protocol. And see, when you represent power, all these other things that you tangibly work for every day, they come to you. They find their way to you when you have power. When you're in Congress, you have power. Why? Because you have access, because you're known. You have a position that only 500 or so people in the country have, and you get to make decisions for the country with other people's money, and really no consequence if you end up being wrong. And that's power. That's why these people work there. And they get to use the American citizens that they claim to be representing as pawns in their arguments. This is why you see all the Congress people going on CNN and TV and on the internet and on social media and framing this situation as if the other guys are causing the issue. That's what they have to do. That's what they're supposed to do. If I was in Congress, I'd be doing the same thing. But understand that this really comes down to them just trying to get what they want for their party more than they're trying to do something for you. That's what this ultimately comes down to. Is this really about we're trying to do something for American citizens? The answer is no, they are not. This argument is about giving health care to people who do not have proper documentation. They're not American citizens. They don't pay taxes. So they're making decisions with your money based on an argument over people who don't even give money to the federal government. Now, technically, they could pay taxes. I mean, if somebody comes in this country without proper documentation, they go to Walmart and they buy some candy and some bottled water, there is tax on that purchase. And technically that money does go to the local or the federal government. Technically, you could say that they pay taxes in that way. And if they work at a place, maybe their boss is withholding taxes or paying taxes on the fact they have staff, whether they're under the table or not. Technically, you could say that they do, but they're not paying taxes in the official way that I'm saying here. Like the federal government knows who you are. You got a social security number and we're asking for your W-2s. They're not doing that. And this is what this argument is about. And that's the Democrats trying to get things for them that do not belong to them. If you don't pay taxes here, you don't get health care. Now, if you get, you break your leg, yes, we'll put you in a cast. Okay, no matter who you are. If I go to Argentina and I break my leg jogging on some trail, then yes, hopefully they put me in a cast. Okay, so I don't lose my leg. But at the same time, I'm not sitting there saying, hey, I deserve all the health care that the Argentinians get. I don't live here. I don't pay taxes here. I don't contribute to the system. No, you don't get it. That's how it goes. Now, some agencies are pushing layoffs amidst the shutdown rather than just furloughs. So they're laying people off. So you got layoffs and furloughs. So there's different language they use to basically tell you don't work here right now, or you might not work here ever again. Now, the shutdown has triggered internal plans to terminate thousands of probationary federal employees, which adds crisis to the instability. Yeah. So basically, a bunch of federal employees not sure they're going to have a job tomorrow. That's what this comes down to. And if this goes past Friday, there's a bunch of federal employees who will not have a job. So you remember Elon Musk with DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency. Turns out all they need to do was just have a shutdown. They would have made things real efficient because they had fired a bunch of people and nobody has a job. Nobody's getting a paycheck. So Elon just had the wrong idea. He should have just engineered a government shutdown. It would have did everything that he was trying to do with half of the, actually on about 10% of the negativity coming towards him. That's a tongue-in-cheek joke there. Now, contract workers suffer uniquely. Any of you who's a contractor, especially working with the government. Unlike federal employees, many do not have mandatory back pay protections. Now, I know some people who do government contracting. Now, here's a good thing about government contracting. Never have to worry if they have the money to pay the bill. That's a good thing about being a contractor for the federal government. I know some people who work in defense with the government and people who do other things with the government. And all their money comes from government contracts. Good thing is you are never unsure if your client, the federal government, has the money to pay the invoice. That's the good thing about doing federal contracting with the United States government. The bad thing is there's a ton of red tape. There's a ton of documentation and red tape you have to do to get these federal contracts and to keep them in place. Another bad thing is if your main point person who you've been doing business with leaves the federal government, there's a lot of turnover there. If they leave, now you got to build a relationship with a new person and you may fail to do so, i.e. losing your contract. And number three, if there's any type of shutdown in the government or changeover in the government, i.e. a new president comes into office, a new regime takes over the department that you were in. So let's say your department was led by the left was controlling things, but now the right's controlling things. Or again, if there's a new senator or a new congressperson or somebody decides to take a hard look at the agency that was paying your contract, i.e. Elon coming in there with that Doge shit. They come in there and they start looking hard at what you're doing. You can lose that contract very easily. And it's like, just like that, done. Contract's over that fast. So the challenge of being a government contractor is that things can change really quick. When it's good, it's great. But when it's bad, it becomes bad overnight. You had a contract for $200,000 from the government yesterday, and today you woke up and that contract's done. Just $200,000 that you thought you were getting next week turned to dust that fast. So that's the challenge of being a contract worker working with the government. And there are no mandatory back pay protections. So if you were doing work and you thought you would get back paid by that, you might not. Not so fast. That's how it goes. Now, legislation introduced by Senators Tina Smith, I do not know her, Ayanna Pressley, I've heard of her, that aims to cover low-wage food service and janitorial contractors who miss hours during the shutdown. So I was mentioning, when I said contractors, I was talking about people running businesses and doing big contracts for tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars with the government, millions of dollars with the government. But also these people are contractors. So food service employees, or contractors technically, janitors, these people are contractors. They have contracts working with the government. And you might not get paid back for your contract. And if you're doing this type of work, I'm going to guess that a lot of people doing this kind of work, food service and janitors, they need that check. Every 2 weeks, their life is planned around getting the money from that check. And if that contract doesn't pay the way it's supposed to pay, well, there's an issue here. And senators can make noise about this, about helping the everyday person. But if the government decides, or Congress, when I say the government here in this context, I'm talking about Congress, they decide they're not going to pay it, or it's decided that it's not going to be paid. It's not like they say, hey, that janitor, we don't want to pay him. That's not the way they make the decision. They make a decision based on bigger picture things. And if you happen to be collateral damage, okay, Mr. Janitor, you're not getting paid, or these 300 food service workers, y'all ain't getting paid because that's what we decided. But hey, tough luck. Tough break, buddy. Good luck finding your next job. This is how it goes. And this happens all the time. And the thing is, you don't hear these stories because the people who it affects, they don't have a big enough platform or a big enough megaphone to make you know about it or to get you to care. And listen, I'm not Jesus Christ. I'm not Sally Struthers. Can't care about every single person, but this kind of stuff does happen. And this is why, folks, even though we talk a lot about the federal government here, most of the time we're talking federal government because all you're from different places. None of us, we don't all live in the same state. Your local elections are what matter the most. It's not the federal elections. Everybody gets all excited about Donald Trump and Biden and Obama and Kamala Harris and JD Vance and all this. Those are not the people y'all really should be excited about. And when I say excited, I don't mean necessarily positive, negative, whatever. Who you should be excited about are who you're voting for your local elections, your city council people, your mayors, your governors, your state representatives. Those are the people you should be paying attention to. The judges in your local municipalities. These people you should be paying attention to because they're the ones making the decisions about how your real everyday life works. Like when you drive to work and there's potholes in the street, or are there cops on the corner in this area where you see some nefarious activity or some shady looking folks? They make those decisions in your everyday life where you live. But everybody tends to pay attention to the federal stuff. That ain't really the deal. The deal is your local elections. Anyway, continuing. Some in Congress warn that consumer and public safety impacts are mounting. We already talked about that. So air control delays are up dramatically, they say. Staffing down means more disruptions at airports and other critical infrastructure. So any of you who travels, especially if you do business travel, those of you who like to cut it close on your business travel, i.e. you got a meeting at 12 o'clock in Dallas and you take a flight that morning, I don't suggest you do that. I personally like getting to places at least the day before I'm supposed to do whatever business I'm doing. But those of you who like to cut it close, I know some of you like to do that. Be careful because with air traffic workers, some of them not getting paid, some of them on delay, there's delays happening because people ain't making money. You stop paying people money, all of a sudden they don't do as good work. Magic formula. People ain't getting paid, they may not show up to work or they may not do as good of a job. It seems to be a normal thing with human beings. So more disruptions in critical infrastructure, folks. Pay attention. Now, without immediate attention, this is getting a lot of attention, but the shutdown will not only hurt workers, but again, it will ripple into the broader economy. We already talked about that. Maybe even global confidence. So the CBO, here's another acronym for you. The Congressional Budget Office, this is another organization. They flag potential losses of $400 million per day in wages, even before this gap widened. $400 million per day, which makes sense because you say almost 2 million people are not going to be getting paid as of Saturday, then yeah, $400 million per day is actually you're saying $4 per day for 1.8 million people each. I think it would be more than that because they're not really counting the overall economic impact because $1 can be spent 10 times. So 400 million is actually a conservative number if you really think about it. When it gets to the point that people don't have money, it's more than $400 million because let's say I got a paycheck for $1,000. Well, out of that $1,000, let's say 800 I have earmarked to spend between gas, grocery, bills, rent, childcare. Okay, I'm spending that money. All that money is going into the pockets of people who own those businesses. They're taking that money and they're spending it. Then they take the money and they spend it. So that dollar circulates. So the entire economy slows down when that money's not moving. So again, as I said, this would be a serious issue if this goes past Friday. So y'all pay attention to the news by Saturday. You should be waking up the news on Saturday that this government shutdown was averted, or hopefully it happens before then if we have some proactive members of Congress. I'm not sure how proactive these people are other than what they announce on TV. We're going to find out, though. We're going to learn today. All that said, folks, I'm trying to decide if I should take a bathroom break or not. Let me take a restroom break just for safety purposes. Let me take a quick restroom break, 90 seconds, folks, and then we'll get into the comments where you can hear some of our favorite sounds. Like strawberry cheesecake. Or
have some more chicken. Have some more pie. It doesn't matter if it's boiled or fried.
90 seconds. We are back. Let's get to it. Taking comments. I will start over on YouTube. Let's see. Shanti Harris, good morning. Said white collar crime. Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. Said these political crooks don't get bags of cash for directing government spending towards campaign donors. What they get are guaranteed jobs after being termed out or losing on the election. They get jobs. Yes, they get jobs. They get contracts. Yes, you're correct. That is exactly what they do. That's the reason why people go work in the government, because it's a long-term play. Working in the government is a long-term strategy. It's not just about your term in the government. Is about long-term what you can do because you worked in the government, worked past tense in the government. Not everybody is, what's our guy's name? Not everybody's Bernie Sanders. So some people don't last that long. But just the fact that you were there can lead to a lot of opportunities. Luxury Homes said, thanks for the truth. Not everyone agrees with the truth. They're disillusions. Well, thank you. Gaffy Taffy said they announced it yesterday. They announced what? Big Sam said, that's why I have not made the subsidies permanent under Biden. What's why? What are you saying? CC Ruiz, thank you for the heart. Philly Viv said, thank you so much for being impartial but honest. You're so knowledgeable. I respect you so much. Thank you, Philly Viv. Appreciate you. Shout out to Philly. Quanot76 said, apparently you're not paying attention. You think this is about healthcare for illegals. What do you think it's about? Quanot76, correct me. No Name said, thank you, Trump. What about him? SJ said, you recognize Trump is intentionally choosing to not use contingency funds for SNAP. Well, technically it's not until November 1st. So it's only October 28th, SJ. So let's see. Let's see what he does. Let's see what he does. Federal court said Dem signed the same CR under Biden, but somehow not under Trump. Are you sure it's exactly the same? I don't know if it's exactly the same, is it? Hokage says every 2 weeks. Yeah, that paycheck. Sheila G, good morning. Philly Viv said, thank you for educating the masses. I wish I could get through to so many who blame Trump for this. No, it's not really on Trump. This is on the Fed. It is because of Trump, but it's not on Trump. It's because of Trump, because the Democrats are basically doing everything they can to resist Donald Trump. You remember the whole resist movement from 2016 or 2017. The resist is anything Trump is about, we want to go against it. Well, Donald Trump won the 2024 election. The Republicans also took control of the House and they have control of the Senate. So that is by extension, indirectly, that's Donald Trump. The Republicans controlling the House and the Senate is Donald Trump. So the Democrats are saying, okay, anything Republican right now, we're going to put that on Trump and we're going to resist it. So they're resisting, the Democrats in Congress are resisting the Democrats and the Republicans in Congress, because they're looking at the Republicans as Donald Trump. So it's about Donald Trump, but it's not because of Donald Trump, if that makes sense. And people are blaming Trump for it because blaming Trump is the easy go-to move for anybody who doesn't like Donald Trump. Anything bad that goes wrong in the government, blame Donald Trump. I remember when I was in like 7th grade, I had a science class and the teacher said, he would ask questions. He said, anytime you're not sure of the answer, just say osmosis. That's usually the answer. So it's the same thing with people paying attention to politics. If you don't like Donald Trump, anything goes wrong, just say Donald Trump. And half the room will agree with you. Sheila G, thanks for the go popular. Tiffany said, Democrats are going to keep us on the back burner for their own personal gain. Well, all politicians do that. I wouldn't blame it on Democrats. I say they all do it. Big Sam says, not supported by the facts. What's not? And which facts? Free Speech 10 said, I like this guy, very smart. Well, thank you. Jerry Thulis said, why don't people have a saving nest day? People live beyond their means. Well, Jerry, that's a different conversation for a different day. But you understand, most people don't. Jerry said, Dems are reprehensible. Well, some Dems will say that Republicans are reprehensible. So Big Sam says, the law says undocumented immigrants are ineligible for ACA subsidies. Yes. Which law, though, Big Sam? You know how many laws there are on the books in the United States government? You know what you're doing here. So there are certain restrictions that say, there are certain restrictions that say you cannot give these subsidies to people who are undocumented. And the Republicans say, let's put a restriction like that into this new agreement. And the Democrats say, no, we don't want that restriction in the new agreement. But it's not even that restriction. It's not that cut and dry. It's like this bigger thing. And inside the bigger thing, the restriction is inside of that. So the Republicans want the bigger thing because it has a restriction. The Democrats don't want the bigger thing because it has a restriction. So now they're all trying to argue and make it seem like the Democrats trying to argue, make it seem like it's something else. And Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, very unique name, he came out and pointed this out. And it's clear when he explains it, but a lot of people don't get into the explanations of this stuff. So Big Sam, you said the law says undocumented immigrants can't get ACA subsidies. Well, technically you're correct. The follow-up question to your statement is which law? There are thousands of laws on the books in the United States government. So I see what you're doing there. That's a little bit of context to me. Nice try.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy. Okay.
Philly Viv said all affected, like our servicemen and women, air traffic should get a break on their bills. Well, Philly Viv, from who? So you're going to ask, PICO in Pennsylvania and say, all right, we're not going to force you to pay your bills this month. Or FPL down here in Florida, okay, you don't have to pay your electric bill because you work for the federal government. It could, technically it could work. You're technically not wrong, Philly Viv, that you can have that happen because during the virus, there are many companies out there that said, we understand people are financially affected. So if you want to delay your bill by a month, we'll let you delay the bill. They still collected their money. They just pushed it back a little bit. So that technically could happen. But not everybody's going to do that. Jurassica said, expiration of ACA means they can deny you for pre-existing conditions as well as your behavior. Understood. That's not technically what we're talking about here. Angie, good morning. Derek Vines, thanks for the follow. Anastasia, thank you for the heart. Rick Thomas said, the same money feeds you can also starve you. Well, this is correct. That's the challenge of employment, period, regardless of who it's by. Jerry Thewis said, people lose jobs every day. Some government jobs are not needed. They're created for family members. I agree with that. I agree with all of that. Maria J. Salter said, good stuff. Thank you for breaking everything down. You're welcome. Big Sam said, especially over continuing resolutions, that's a CR. Subsidy extensions under this ACA and Medicaid funding. What about? CC Ruiz, thanks for the share. Jerry Thewis said, they hired 3 illegal workers for the price of 1 legal worker. This is true. And that's the reason why it's a tricky conversation about hiring undocumented people, because undocumented people will usually work for less money than a documented person. So if I run a business, let's say I run a landscaping business, it'd be easier for me to hire some undocumented people because they'll work for $10 an hour. Whereas if I hire some American, they want $25 an hour. Well, so I could hire 2.5 undocumented people and get the same amount of work done and hiring 1 American with paperwork. I might try to get away with hiring the undocumented person because, listen, I'm running a business here. My job is get the job done and keep as much money as possible. My job is not, let me just hire somebody because you have documentation. The hell I care about your documentation. What I care about is my business and the survival of my business and making sure I'm serving my customers. If I could do it better with undocumented than with documented, then I might hire the documented people. But then if Tom Holman starts sending the masked ICE agents to my town and rounding up my workers, now I don't have any workers anymore. Now I got to hire some documented person. I got to pay them 3 times the money or 2.5 times the money. Now this is hurting my business. So even though I might like Donald Trump's idea, at the same time, it's hurting my business. So there's not always a straight, clear answer to these questions. There is some trickiness in it because if you own a business and you own the type of business where you can hire undocumented people and get away with it, like a landscaping business, or you got a local pizza shop, I don't need to hire somebody who has all their paperwork. All you're doing is taking orders. All you're doing is handing people pizza. All you're doing is cutting grass. Like, why do I need a documented person for that? And it saves me a whole lot of money. Let's remember what business is. Business is about creating money and keeping money. So, Jerry, you're right about this. That's what makes it a tricky conversation, depending on who the person is that's talking about it. Jack, thanks for the follow. Today's price, thanks for the follow. Margie Mihicks, thanks for the share. User, thanks for the share. Big Sam said, federal law still prohibits undocumented from getting federally funded health coverage. Well, yeah, we addressed that already. Philly said, please explain why Congress, Schumer especially, are still getting paid. Because they got power. As simple as that. J. Ray said, nah, this will go way beyond Friday. I hope not. I hope this doesn't go beyond Friday. I know some people who work for the federal government who would be directly affected by this. And at the same time, I don't want it to go beyond Friday because even though I don't work for the government myself, I don't have people in my my personal family who work for the federal government. Eventually, that lost money that uncirculating money eventually finds its way to everybody. So, Jire, none of us want this to go beyond Friday, because what the government shut down, essentially what it means for all of us is that there's a certain amount of money being held hostage that is not moving. And when money is not moving, eventually it's going to affect you. Even if you're not one of the people who is not directly receiving, you're not one of the direct recipients of that money, eventually it affects you. Louise Brown, good morning over there on Instagram. Thank you. So I want money moving. I like when the economy is thriving and strong and healthy and everybody feels like they have money and is optimistic about having money tomorrow. I like it when it's like that. Why? Because that means everybody's spending money. And the more money everybody is spending, eventually the people who I want to offer my products and services to, they will feel like they have money. They will feel like they're going to have money tomorrow. So while I make them an offer, they have no problem giving me their money in exchange for my product or service, because they believe they will replenish the money, not only through the value of what I'm offering, but also just because they feel positive about their money circumstances. So you don't want people feeling negative about their money circumstances. You don't want any group of people feeling that way, because eventually it will affect you. So we need this over by Friday, even if you don't work for the government. Jeray said the people in control are not suffering, just civilians. This is true. Sheila said, is it true that they stay closed more than 32 days that the president has more power? I don't know about that, but I think Donald Trump's going to get involved for another reason, because he doesn't want this on his track record, especially with midterms a year away. Stefan said, they are disgusting, treasonous subhumans. They care nothing about the people. They are getting paid. Directionally, I agree with this statement. Glory said, Dems open the government. Well, they can if they just agree to the deal. And I don't think they have enough power to keep holding out. That's the issue. Irma V, thank you for the confetti. Stephen Albert, thank you for the lightning bolt. 202 lightning bolts. That's a lot of lightning. Thank you, Stephen. Member level 12, too. B. Wood said, I just explained this to my barber who was not hip to what was going on. Client list going to drop in November. Yeah, so exactly. So this is a good example of what B. Wood just said here. So I don't use the clap for every one of your good comments, but I use it sometimes. But I'm telling y'all, when y'all need to say things that make great sense. So thank you for sharing. Is that if you're a barber, for example, this is a good example. You're a hairstylist. If you're a dog walker, if you're a babysitter, these things that people will spend money on when they have the discretionary income to do so. But if they got to tighten their purse strings, you're one of the first ones to get cut. This is the kind of things that these kind of people lose their money. So barbers are going to see money loss. Babysitters, dog walkers, dog sitters, landscapers, people who cut grass for a living. These kind of people, you're going to lose money because your customers are the people who need the money from the government in order to come to you and give you their money. So a lot of small business owners, a lot of people with side hustles, because a lot of the things that get sold at these places are things that, again, are not necessarily essential. It's not food, clothing, shelter. So if you're not running a grocery store, you're not selling like diapers or baby formula, and you're not renting somebody a house, everything else is discretionary. And if people don't have discretionary income, or they don't think they're going to have discretionary income, or because the people who they get their money from, they don't have discretionary income. So again, the trickle down effect, y'all got to understand trickle down. When you hear trickle down economics, the concept is you put a bunch of money at the top, then it makes its way down to everybody else, and everybody has money. But that's not really what trickles down. The real trickle down is the shit. The saying is shit flows downhill. You ever heard that saying before? The negativity is what trickles down. It's not the positive. It's the negative stuff that trickles down. And that's what's going to happen to everybody. So this comment, BWood7128, is a good example of this. SJ said he's chosen to withhold contingency SNAP funds. Well, it hasn't happened yet. Again, it's October 31st. Is for the SNAP funds, SJ. SJYUTY said Dems and socialists derive their power from poverty, more power, more poverty, more power. They want a recession. Well, I think right now they might want a recession quietly because it makes Donald Trump look bad and it will help them win the midterms. Technically, you could be right. Finding Disney said, no way they're going to elections on November 4th without a passed bill. Democrats lose. Good point. That's also a good tent pole as those elections happening on next Tuesday. Oh, yeah, by the way, New York City, good luck. Good luck, New York City. I listened to that whole debate between Sliwa and Cuomo and Zoran Mamdani, that 2-hour debate they had last week. I listened to the whole thing, and it was fine. It was fine. Kumo he lost his fastball. He's kind of in the Obama zone where he still looks the part and kind of says the things, but he can't quite do it. He doesn't quite have it for 4 quarters anymore like he used to. That's kind of like Michael Jordan on the Wizards. That's what Kumo looked and sounded like. Sliwa, I'm not as familiar with him. He's not going to win. But the problem is he is dividing the vote of the Kumo voters. So people are saying if Sliwa drops out and gets behind Kumo, Kumo has a chance to win. But if Sliwa doesn't drop out, he's splitting the vote, and Mandami's definitely going to win. And I think that even if Sliwa drops out and gets behind Kumo, that Mandani might still win. And that's what it's looking like. So New York City, again, good luck. One thing I'm disappointed about is that I'm going to be traveling next Wednesday. So I know I'm not going to be live next Wednesday or Thursday or Friday next week. So if the election's on Tuesday, I won't be able to talk about it till the following Monday. But we will talk about it. So guaranteed we're talking about what happened in New York. Regardless of who wins, we'll be talking about that. Next, not next Monday, but the Monday after that. That small biz guy said, many sweeping claims for other people's intentions. Please provide evidence. Well, I'm giving you my evidence is the arguments that I'm giving you, the points that I'm telling you. And some of these are theories. Some of them are evidence that I gave at the very beginning. And some of them are just my interpretations of that evidence and information. So I'm giving you all three at the same time, that small biz guy. I'm giving you my opinions. I'm giving you my theories. I'm giving you facts. And I'm giving you explanations all at the same time. I'm not labeling each one but that's what I'm doing. Finally, Disney said political optics. Well, the whole game of politics is optics. Mama Sharon Graves, thank you for the repost. Show said, but Congress is getting paid, though. Yeah. Yes, of course they are. SJ said, that's a lie. What are you referring to? What's a lie? Pep said, thank you for telling the truth. So I got somebody saying I'm lying. The next person says I'm telling the truth. So which one is it? And Big Sam said, that is not what this argument is about, plain and simple. What is the argument about? Federal court said, neither will blink until after the 4th. Those elections will tell whose side the people are on. I don't know if they want to play that game, federal court. That's a risky game to play because if you lose that election, then that person is in office for how much time? I don't know if they want to play that. I get what you're saying. That's a risky game to play. I think they might want to get this done ahead of time so we can have a fair election, just a fair fight. I think if there's a fair fight, in a fair fight, Mamdani is going to win the New York City election. I think he's going to win. I'm not saying I think he's a better candidate. I'm not saying I like his policies or what I've heard from him. But I think in a fair fight, let's say they resolved it today, the government shutdown, and there's just normalcy happening everywhere. And New York has that election next Tuesday. I think Mamdani is going to win. I don't think they need to do all that. I think he can just win straight up. User said emergency care is all the Dems are asking for. I don't think so because emergency care you already get. Again, if you break your leg, even if you don't have documentation, they're going to take care of you. They're not going to deny you. You broke your leg and you're bleeding out of your knee. All right, they're going to help you out. So I think they will. Steven said 61 days, a bunch of folks will get laid off for sure. But if it goes to 61 days, Steven, that means that it's going to eclipse Thanksgiving. I don't think the government can survive that. I think you'd be looking at some serious upheaval from the everyday citizens if it goes into Thanksgiving. I don't think it lasts that long. I don't give it more than the rest of this week, as I've already said. Free Speech 010, thanks for the follow. Federal court said courts will reverse the layoffs they already started. Okay, they should do that. I mean, anybody who was working and didn't get paid should get their money. The government got the money. So anybody who works for the federal government should get their money. I don't know why the OMB put out that memo that technically they don't have to pay. That's crazy. Why would they even say that? Michelle, good morning. So said, not true. I'm a government contractor. I am at home, but I believe in my Trump. What are you saying is not true? Christopher Barker said, I wonder if the contractors building a new ballroom are still working. Probably, because that's not federal money, Christopher Barker. So I think they're still working. That's not congressional money. Niece said, federal contract, mostly union jobs. That's why unions support Democratic Party and politicians. Fair enough. So said, yep, at the 25 years of government contractor, every 3 to 5 years, it is panic if it will be renewed. Yeah, see, that's the thing about working with the federal government is that every time a new regime comes in, all right, now the whole situation might change. That happens in a lot of industries, though, believe it or not. Even when I was playing ball, I remember I was in Mexico. Then I came back to the USA, and I was talking to my agent in Mexico, and he was telling me that, hey, there's a new president coming into Mexico. There's an election coming up. And when a new president comes in, it's going to be a new person. The money that would have went to the league that you're going to play in might go away. So you might not be able to get signed depending on who the president is and depending on what decisions that they make. So everybody's in a holding pattern until we figure out who the new president is and what they want to do. This is in basketball. So it can trickle down to a lot of things, which is why I'm not a big fan of tethering myself too much to the government. But I know some of you do. And listen, the money's good. When it's there, it's there. The check is always there if you work with the federal government. The check is there if the deal is good. Now, if the deal dries up, then the check's gone. That's the issue. Richard Sims, thanks for the follow. Michelle Steele, thank you for the share. Brandy Sherwick, thank you for the share. SJ said, man hasn't explained why the president is choosing to withhold food from Americans. Well, SJ, that's not happening. Now you're getting into the straw man area. Don't do it.
Strawberry cheesecake.
SJ, you just been creeping to the line of the straw man, and you got there finally.
Strawberry cheesecake.
The president is withholding food from Americans. SJ, really? That's what we come to here. Is that where you gotten? Todd Dean said all they care about is lining their pockets, so they don't care about us. Well, I think that's their priority. I think they do care about citizens, but it's not the number one priority. Todd is what I would say. Mustang 420 said, as a kid, my town hall was packed every Tuesday night for the last 30 years. It's gone empty. What town is that, Mustang? Is it a small town? But that's the way it's supposed to be. If people are actually paying attention, it would be the local stuff. If you want to get involved in politics, it's the local stuff you got to pay attention to. David Schrader said, straight red, blue is easy on crime. Generally speaking, that is correct. Echo says, so everyone needs to vote November 4th. Well, it depends on what elections are coming up. I don't live in New York, so I can't vote in the New York election. But if you live in New York, you might want to vote. Christy, thank you for the heart. Leah, tell everybody, thank you for telling everybody, keep the likes coming. We had 100K already. Rick Thomas, thank you. SJ says, same issues happens when millions don't have money for food. This is true. You're right about that. Where was I? We do have to be done by 10 o'clock here today, folks. I got a call coming up. Let's see. Where was I? Oh, here we go. SJ said, apparently we support racists that are happy to starve Americans with political gain. SJ, come on.
Strawberry cheesecake.
You like eating strawberry cheesecake in the morning, obviously. Rather than Pearl said, remember to drop your daily heart mate. Yes, do that. 58 seconds is less than a minute. Yes, so I under promise and over deliver on when I take a restroom break. SJ said, happy to sue their own DOJ that they control. Just being us said, what's the topic today? We're talking about the ongoing government shutdown and how some people are going to be missing out on their paychecks and SNAP benefits come this Saturday, November 1st. That's what we're talking about. Tina, good morning. RC Seller said it's Pat Sertan. I appreciate you, Echoes 9711. Someone, thank you for the follow. SJ said, what happens to Americans' premiums as the subsidies end? Well, we'll see. Noah said, you look so handsome and model white. Well, thank you. James Dalton, 352, said, very good schooling on the power of money circulation is the root cause of recession and depression. Yes, it's all psychological. It's not really about the dollars themselves. It's about people's psychology about the money. When people feel good about money, you get a strong economy. Noah said the audio is doubling and hard to understand. I don't think it is. I don't think the audio is doubling. I have heard these back. They sound fine to me. Luxury Home said the previous CR had all the DEM programs that got removed after the big, beautiful bill. That's why. Well, hey, elections have consequences. I get it. Do Free 8 said it's a tantrum. Yes, exactly. Exactly. Shutterman said, actually, you told him the truth. Ra, thank you for the follow. Cheryl Smalley, thank you for the share. Jake Lancaster said, on paper, illegals do not get health care and Medicare. However, in practice, they do. Yes, this is why the Republicans are doing what they're doing. Monica Lewinsky said, yes, we got Monica Lewinsky in here, folks. What's going on, Monica? Yo Kirk said, TSA are grumpy because we had to deal with people who don't like being inconvenienced. Well, why would you? Well, let me think about that one. Well, TSA does inconvenience people, but at the same time, while I understand people don't like the inconvenience of TSA, we kind of accepted TSA after 9/11. And 9/11 led to TSA because everybody was afraid about anything happening on an airplane. So we got TSA, and it's not going away. Maybe in the next 10 years, maybe J.D. Vance, if he becomes president, he can get rid of TSA. But at the same time, that would get a whole bunch of people fired from their jobs. So it's a double-edged sword. And TSA is grumpy because people are grumpy because TSA is inconveniencing them. So TSA continues to inconvenience them because they're grumpy. So it's like this circular problem. So I say just go above the problem by getting clear and TSA pre-check so that you don't really have to deal with TSA. That's the ultimate solution. Actually, the ultimate solution is buy your own airplane or fly private so you only have to go in the airport, period. But if you're not there yet, I'm not there yet, then get clear and TSA pre-check so you can deal with them as little as possible. Brooke Martella said, my daughter won't have to pay rent until it's over because her work's military. Well, that's good. Silky Slim said, dude, it always sounds like you're MAGA. What did I say that makes me sound MAGA? Today I'm talking about Congress, both sides of Congress. What did I say that was MAGA today? Federal court said furloughed workers can get unemployment. You just have to pay back if they get the back pay. So they would have to get the money back if they get back pay. Okay, interesting. SJ said, if you hire undocumented, it's your fault, not the undocumented people's. Yes, I take ownership. I would take ownership of it, SJ. If I run a landscaping company, I hire 10 undocumented people, and Tom Homan sends his mass people down here and rounds up my people, then I'll be like, damn it, now I got to hire people that cost a lot more money, but I'm going to do what I got to do to keep running my business. But hopefully it doesn't happen, so I keep running my business on as low a payroll as possible. That's the game that I decide to play. But if I run a business, I take ownership of everything. That's the mindset of a owner. The mindset of a person in power is you take ownership of everything you touch. Nathan Don, thanks for the share. HJY said, which is why businessmen need to be held accountable as well. The current system is more like indentured servitude. I wouldn't go that far. I agree with the first half of what you said. Business people get held accountable. Well, actually, held accountable in what way? What do you mean by that? Like if I hire some people who are undocumented, I'm giving them a job, which is what the Democrats would actually be happy about. The Democrats are happy I'm giving that person a job. I'm giving them a chance to live and take care of their family and pay bills, and they're not doing any crime or anything, even though they don't have documentation, but I got them hired. So if the government was to come down on me for hiring this person, that would be the political right government coming down on me. But I don't think they got the time to do that. They're just trying to get the people. If they get rid of the people, they ain't got to come down on me. They already came down on me by taking away my workers. So what are they going to do? You said the current system is more like indentured servitude. I would not say that. I don't know. How can it be indentured servitude when someone accepts a job? If you work at a job voluntarily, you come to the job every day from your house. How is that indentured servitude? Nancy L., thanks for the pumpkin. Sarah Asher says, how do we get laws passed saying Congress doesn't get paid if we don't get paid? Well, Sarah, technically that law would have to get passed by Congress to the president, and the president would have to sign it. So Congress would have to make their own law that says we don't get paid if we don't pass a bill. So long story short, Sarah, that ain't happening. That's the answer to your question. User said it'll reopen before midterms. Midterms is a year away. User, it better reopen before Halloween, which is this Friday. Jay Rocker said everyone is so gun-ho about getting rid of the illegals, can't have it both ways. Well, Jay Rocker, is technically not true because everyone is not a business owner. I'm talking about if I owned a business, a landscaping business, for example. I do own a business, but I don't have undocumented people working for me. But if I ran a business where I had undocumented people working for me, I would take advantage of it because they generally will accept less money and I could pay them under the table so I could save on payroll taxes, employment taxes, and just overall payroll costs by having people who will accept less money. So I would take advantage of it if I could, but if I can't, then I got to do what I got to do because I'm running the business. Most people who are in support of Donald Trump getting rid of illegals out of the country are not business owners. So what you're saying here, you're making it seem as if most people are business owners. Most people are not, though. So I get what you're alluding to, but it doesn't equate. Hydrate, thanks for the follow. Monica Lewinsky said the economy is usually better under Democrats. I've heard that. I've heard people talking about that, but I would have to look into and get more context to know if that is actually the truth or not, because at the same time that people say that, Democrats will say the reason that the economy is doing good now is because under Republicans, because what I did as a Democrat. So basically what they're saying is the economy's results don't show till the next term. But then if it goes bad, then they don't want to take credit. So Barack Obama took credit for Donald Trump's strong economy in 2017. But if the economy goes bad now, then Joe Biden is not going to take credit for this. So which one is it? See, you can't just keep changing the rule based on how things are going, which is what politicians do all the time. Vince's Toy Gallery said, doesn't government employees receive back pay if they don't get paid now? Well, that's been the conversation here today. Vince's Toy Gallery is that the OMB put out a memo that says they technically do not, by law, get back pay. They don't have to get back pay. I think they're going to get back pay, but the OMB put out a message that they don't have to. I don't know why they put that out, but they did put that out there. Rick Thomas said, any book recommendations today? We're going to go with my most popular book, which is The Third Day, The Decision That Separates the Pros from the Amateurs. This book is all about how you show up and give your best effort when you least feel like it. The book's free. Just cover the shipping. Go to thirddaybook.com or just text the number 3 to the number in my profile. Number in my profile is 305-384-6894. Send me a text with the number 3. We will send you a link to get this book. Again, the book's free. Just cover the shipping. Thirddaybook.com. Rick Thomas, you have any of my books? If you do, then I'll tell you one that can complement whatever you got. Or if you're looking on a specific topic, Rick, it'd be better if you ask me for a specific topic, and then I could tell you a book. Whether it's one of mine or somebody else's. It doesn't have to be one of mine. Rick Thomas said, impulse purchases go down drastically and immediately. Yes, exactly. And impulse purchases are a byproduct of discretionary funds. And if people don't have discretionary funds, that's the money that's left over after you pay your essentials, then a lot of businesses are going to suffer. Marwa said, trickle-down economics is a Republican scam. Well, trickle-down economics has been talked about for decades. I wouldn't call it a Republican thing. I don't see it that way. Matt said, give a better explanation of trickle-down economics. Well, it's not the topic here today. The topic is not trickle-down economics. What I'm saying is when people say trickle-down economics, the idea is that there's money at the top, it will make its way to everybody else. Well, we know that doesn't happen. What really does trickle down is not the money, it's the psychology. Jewel of the King said it wasn't fine. What are you talking about? Rick Thomas said 5 million Democrats withdraw from the party and you'll get some attention. Yeah, pretty much. Rowan said, when do I think government will reopen? My prediction is by Halloween. Sheila said, I'm pretty sure he's going to win too. I feel sorry for New York. Well, New York's voting for him. So when I say good luck, I'm kind of being funny. But if they vote for him, they deserve it. Onyx Soul said, Mount Diamond's going to win and I hope he does. So see, right there. See, a bunch of people want him to win. That's why he's going to win. They're going to vote for him. Dawn said, good morning. Always looking super dapper. Great day to you, sir. Thank you, Dawn. Onyx Soul says, it's going to hurt corporations like Walmart. And yes, it will. You're right. It's going to hurt a lot of people. It's going to hurt big corporations like Walmart that makes billions of dollars. It's going to hurt Amazon. And it's going to hurt the everyday person. The barber, the lawnmower, the dog walker, the babysitter, the car wash guy, the auto detailer. It's going to hurt a whole bunch of people. Kerry Moore, thanks for the follow. Dawn said, you can't hold loyalty to any politician. You hold them accountable, guys. Come on. Well, yes, this is true when you don't need the government for certain things. But if you're a contractor or you got certain deals with the government, I understand how people can look at it differently. It depends on the person's situation, which we always have to take that into account on a personal level. Now, on a big level, I get what you're saying. SJ, you're talking about something that is not the topic here. They don't know what you're talking about. Queen Warrior, thanks for the follow. Ben Strategy, thanks for the share. Sarah Asher said, Julia said, SJ is a pick me. Sarah Asher said, how do we get laws passed on Congress? Well, Congress passes the laws, Sarah, so you're kind of asking a circular question. Congress makes the bills that they pass to the president. If the president signs the bill becomes a law. If the president does not sign the bill, also known as a veto, he sends it back to Congress and they can try to rework it and get it done, or it just dies on the Congress floor. We vote for Congress. So if we want different laws passed, we have to vote for different Congress people. Those are your senators and your state representatives. So those are the people who we have to swap out if we don't like the laws that are currently existing. So you can't really pass a law on Congress because Congress are the ones who make the laws, which means Congress has the ultimate power, which is why Congress is not to be trusted because they don't have absolute power, but they got a lot of power. Ben Strategy, thanks for the share. John said, have I not heard my honest question? What's your question? You should have asked it right there. Federal court said, them think people on their side because No Kings protest is the reason they won't do anything until November 5th. I don't know. You think they think the No Kings protest is enough information? I don't know. I think that was just they just need to exercise. Susan Litchfuss, thanks for the follow. Lynn, thank you for the love you so much. Cena said, early vote red for VA this past week. Oh, yeah, VA's got a big election coming up, too. Brooke Martella, thanks for the share. Tara Mills, thanks for the heart. Brooke, thanks for the heart. Monica Winston says, strawberry cheesecake is good, though, LOL. Yeah, but at 9 o'clock in the morning, I don't know if I want to eat at 9 o'clock in the morning. I don't eat cheesecake. I don't like mushy food, period. I used to, but not anymore. Jackie Allen, thanks for the follow. Joey said SJ needs to get off social media. No, they make social media interesting. Brooke, thanks for the heart. Patricia Call said, my husband missed his first check today and his last one was only a partial check. Yeah, see, that's what I mean. People start missing their checks, it gets serious. And we're just talking is one thing. Like for many of you, you don't work for the government, so we're just talking. But if you get a check from the government and you need that check, this is not a joking matter. Rocket Top said, what are we discussing? We're discussing the federal shutdown, ongoing federal shutdown, which is in its 28th day. Rocket Top, and how this is starting to affect people not getting their money, including Social Security and people on food stamps. SJ said, you avoid the crux of the Democrats' position. What is it? What is the crux of their position? Googleplex said, AOC has Schumer by short hairs. Christian said, I love your lives playing while I'm working. Well, I appreciate it. What kind of work do you do? Sarah Asher said, I used to sign illegals up for Medicaid. Really? Where at? What kind of job were you working and where were you working? Like location. Federal court said Dems cared about subsidies. Why wait till the deadline? Why not fight to extend it under Biden? Interesting. Good question. Michael Thomas, thanks for the follow. Christopher Barker said, why is it hard for most people to understand why we don't want illegals in this country? Because Donald Trump doesn't want it. So people do understand it. Donald Trump said we don't want these people in the country. So the Democrats said we're going to resist anything Donald Trump does. So anything Donald Trump says, they do the opposite. That's what it is. Elizabeth said, I love TSA pre-check, life-changing. Well, Elizabeth, if you think that's life-changing, get clear with your TSA pre-check and it will change your life again. So you get two life-changing things at the same time. Clear gets you out of that line. See, when you got TSA pre-check, you still got to stand in line with everybody else who has pre-check. When you have clear, you only line up with the people who have clear. And for every 10 people in the TSA pre-check line, there's one person with clear. And you jump to the front of the line. You jump in front of the TSA pre-check people when you have clear. So that's why it's worth it. And again, you can write this off on your taxes as a business expense. This is not financial advice. Ashley Mack said, use the fly weekly. Life is great not having to walk into an airport anymore unless it's for vacay. What do you mean use the fly weekly? What does that mean? Are you saying you fly private, Ashley Mack? Rick Thomas said, people are confused as you speak facts and truth and they are not used to honesty. I'll take that as a compliment. Christopher Barker said, you spitting truth. It must sound MAGA to him, but truth is truth. Fair enough. HJY said, I mean by fines for those not following the laws. Yes, I know what you mean. But again, if I run a business and I got 10 illegals working for me and Tom Homan sends some people in and they round up all 10 of my workers, they already hurt me. They ain't got to do nothing to me. They already took my workers away. That's a strong enough retaliation for me hiring them by just taking them away. Now I got to find new people. Now I got to find 10 new illegals to work for me. Or I got to hire some Americans. Federal court said, Bernie already said some Congress people have a family and can't afford to miss pay. Technically, he's right because it depends on the cost of their lifestyle. So you don't know how much people's lifestyle costs. So there could be people working in the federal government who are still paycheck to paycheck. Depends on how much their life costs. Live Free said, airlines still charge the TSA safety ticket fees. It's a scam. That's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, so when you buy a ticket on an airline, there's a TSA fee. So, yeah, it is a scam, and that's why I said it's not going away. That's why TSA is not going away, ever. Actually, it might go away. It's going to take a Republican to do it, and it's going to take Americans in general not still having the same fears about getting on an airplane as we had 25 years ago. Literally 25 years ago. 24, technically. Miss Kim Bates, thanks for the pumpkin pie. We got less than 10 minutes here, folks, and we got to wrap up. Luxury Home said, untrue is not better than Democrats. Look at California, New York, how horrible. Well, they always been like that. New York is a great city. California is a beautiful place. But if you're talking political, it's a different conversation. J Rock said, I didn't realize that most Trump supporters were not business owners. I guess I was making assumptions. Most people are not business owners, J Rock. It's not Trump supporters. Most people, period, are not business owners. Luxury Home said, economy is worse under Democratic rule. Look at California, New York, horribly expensive, bad streets. Okay, I get what you're saying. SJ said, a Republican started trickle down. Republicans run on trickle down. Republicans live on trickle down. I wouldn't go that far. That's a straw man.
Strawberry cheesecake.
Sunshine and Whiskey said, do you have any books on overcoming anxiety? My husband is a hard worker but sweats the small stuff. Well, I actually have a book called, I'm glad you asked that question. I literally have a book called 25 Reasons to Quit Worrying. Now, this one is not in my, this is not a free plus shipping book, but where you can get that is if you get this book, The Mirror of Motivation. This book is on mindsets and sunshine and whiskey. Get them this book, mirrormotivation.com. This takes you through a funnel. Inside the funnel, we're going to offer you more books. So we'll offer you the Bulletproof Bundle, we'll offer you the Mental Game Super Duper Bundle, and we offer you the Leadership Bundle, which is 3 books. This one, 25 Reasons to Quit Worrying. Then we have, see, I keep these handy so I can reach them without getting up. 55 Daily People Skills and 25 Conversation Starters. This book right here has helped some people I know get contracting jobs for $100,000. They told me directly. So these 3 books, we call this the Leadership Bundle. You can get these 3 books at workonyourgame.com/LB Leadership Bundle. For Leadership Bundle, these 3 books is a bundle. Or you can just go to front end mirrorofmotivation.com. Books free, just cover the shipping. Or just text the word mirror to the number in my profile, 305-384-6894. Sheila G said, you're right. If they dumb enough to vote for him, they deserve what they get. Yes, I don't think they think themselves dumb. I think they think they're smart. So if that's what they want, that's what they should get. I don't even say it's positive or negative. It's just that's what you wanted, that's what you got. Joe Byron said that Mom Dami's people, we can't go that far, Joe. We can't do that. You can't blame his people. Just because he's from the same background, we can't do that. Live Free said, how is it Americans don't understand civics? Well, why do they need to? For the most part, a lot of Americans don't need to understand it. Monica Lewinsky said, Obama did the layup for Trump. Biden's economy was bad, and Trump will make it worse. Okay. Anne Marie said, billion-dollar profit-making insurance companies weren't so greedy, we wouldn't need subsidies. I understand. That's what I'm going to say. John said, I think it's not going to cause a word. What does that mean? Marky Man said, SSI is not affected. Social Security you talking about? Cece said, they're trying to pass something so Congress won't get a paycheck until the government open. Well, who's going to pass it? Monica said, hot take. I don't mind immigrants. They cool, mind their own business. I don't mind immigrants either. Now, what kind of immigrants are we talking? I know a whole lot of immigrants. I know a whole lot of people who were not born in the United States but are in the United States now and are great people. What we're talking about is people without documentation, and they're here without proper documentation, and they're here against the law, and they should be removed. So what type of immigrant are we talking here? Monica. Elizabeth said, good to know about Clear. Thank you. You're welcome. Clear needs to be a sponsor. We've been trying to get them as a sponsor for a while, but we can't get through to them. Ashley said, traveled weekly in the pharma world, didn't miss it and retired at 52. You used to work in pharma? Okay, now pharma is another place where the check is there. Monica said, I want TSA. You should get it. What is TSA? How much TSA pre-check cost now? Like $100? $85 for 5 years? Something like that. Yo Kirk said, Vance can't fire me. I'm retired. All right, cool. John said, I sent the question on YouTube. Oh, all right. I'll look at YouTube in a second. Sunshine and Whiskey said, thanks, you rock. You're welcome. Christopher Barker said, I need to understand. I'm looking at comments on TikTok right now because most of my comments, 98% of my comments come through TikTok. So that's what I'm. So O-Dog said, TSA needs to go. It's a fake job that props up the surveillance state. I agree with that. But I don't think it's going to happen. I think people are still afraid. O-Dog said, economy is better under Joe Biden and Obama. I swear, people just say whatever. I think that's sarcasm. John said, why do you think the Republicans are not using the nuclear option to get rid of the filibuster? Because they can use it sometimes. They might use it themselves. O-Dog says, somebody didn't watch Schoolhouse Rock. Yeah, I didn't. So I don't, whatever that, if there was a reference there, I didn't see that. You say you didn't see the book of Roman numerals. You're talking about this one? This is the third day. You're talking about this book right here. I got another book with Roman numerals. Oh, you're talking about this one? That's the Work on Your Game Commandments. I don't sell that book. That book I give to people who join into my programs. So that one is not for sale. Not direct retail sale. Just like Power Presence Protocol is not available for direct retail sale. This is retail. And I give this one to you for free. ThirdDayBook.com. Let's see. Slit says, so the military is getting paid. What about the veterans with disability, etc.? I don't know. I didn't look that deep into it. Keep on Living said, thoughts on bailing out Argentina? I won't answer. Argentina is not the topic. So I didn't even see that question, but why would that even be a topic? The topic here today is the government shutdown and Americans. We're not talking about Argentina. Christian said, Dems take credit for a good economy, say Republicans ruin it when it's bad. Yes, that is what they do. Keely said, people are only afraid because they can't see beyond what they are told to see. Fair enough. But if you're not getting a paycheck, I mean, there is a reason to be afraid. Keep on Living said, do a Google search and you'll see, well, what is on Google? Google is just stuff that people say. So you saying it and it being on Google is pretty much the same thing. it doesn't get more credence just because it's on Google. It's the same thing as you saying it right here. What's the difference? So anyway, everybody, I do these live streams Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern. I'm usually done by 10. We're at 9:58, so we're going to wrap this one up. I will be live again tomorrow. I'll be live. The rest of this week will be live as usual at 8 a.m. Next week, I will be here Monday, Tuesday, but I'm traveling Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. In the morning times, I'm not going to be live. So I'm going to miss out talking about the New York election, which is going to happen on Tuesday. So I'm mad about that, but I'll be back. We'll probably talk about that on Monday unless something else happens. But I'll probably be gathering a bunch of news items between next Tuesday after my live through the rest of the week. So we'll have plenty of things to talk about that week after, which is that's when I'm going to start my Power Presence Challenge, actually November 10th. So if you want to get into my Power Presence Challenge, go to the link in my profile. That's powerpresenceprotocol.com. That is all about commanding attention, shifting the energy, and leaving an imprint on every person you come across without saying a single word. And because you do that, all the other things you want, money, attention, respect, connection, friends, success, achievement, growth, advancement, all of those things happen because of the impression that you make on people before you say anything. 85% of communication is nonverbal, and 85% of people's judgment about you is made in the first 10 seconds. You want to master that, you need to master the power of presence. Get into my program. The link is in the profile, or just text the word power to my text number, which is 305-384-6894. So I will see you all tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Eastern. Anybody got any questions or comments for me? Don't send me a DM. I don't read the DMs. My assistant might see your DM, and she'll write you back and just send you somewhere where you can reach me. The best place to reach me is by text. That number's in my profile, 305-384-6894. When you get a response to my text, that is me writing you back. If my DMs, that's not me writing you back. My assistant will write you back. But if you want to reach me, send me a text message, 305-384-6894. Numbers in the pinned comment or in my information on one of these. Or if you really want to talk to me directly, get into the Power Presence Protocol, have me as your direct coach. That way you'll be talking to me live on video calls just like this one. And that's that, everybody. I'll see y'all tomorrow morning. Everybody have a great Tuesday. Thank you to the moderators. Thank you to the regulars. Thank you for the likes. Thank you for the gifts, everybody who keep lighting up the gift gallery. Shout out to the new people who came in here, didn't hear me before, but if you like this one, be back here tomorrow. Shout out to YouTube, Rumble, X, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. We will be back tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Eastern. Everybody have a great Tuesday. Work on your game.